Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. Hello, Ignite Intimacy community. This is your host, Miss Laura Aisha, and we have a very special episode coming to you today from Mexico. This is just a really lovely experience sitting in a beautiful courtyard on a Sunday evening, having a chat with a soul adventurer, world explorer, writer, beautiful human being, all about love and sex and sexual desire and satisfaction. You're going to enjoy this one. So tune in. We have Lauren Leonardi on the line with us today, and enjoy. And stick around till the end. We do have more poetry from Miss Noel. See you on the flip. Mwah. What is happening, Ignite Intimacy community? I'm here in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. It's evening. I'm in a gorgeous courtyard, and I am with three beautiful soul adventurers. We're close to the street. You might hear some dogs barking. You might hear some fireworks going off at a nearby church or on the street, and we're just going to roll with it. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here with someone that I just met a few days ago. Lauren Leonardi is a mutual friend of a bunch of people that I've been blessed to meet here in San Miguel as of late. And I understand that you have a book that you have written about some of your, I would call them sexcapades.
That's fair.
So we're going to get into all of that. And I just want to welcome you to the show, Lauren.
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for such a lovely intro. I mean, I feel equally about you, your beautiful, shining spirit, and feel like really privileged to be asked to be part of your this wonderful thing you're doing.
Thank you so much. Well, it is truly my pleasure. And meeting you is like meeting a sister. I feel like we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
We're both, dark-haired, olive-skinned, powerful, outspoken, bold women that are also tender and loving and curious. And, so we have both that masculine and feminine thing about us. And
you have that very right. And within 10 seconds of meeting, an Argentine told us that sex is top of mind in both of our creative work. So that was easy.
Booyaka. Well, that's how we do. Yeah, so our friend shared about this book that you wrote, and I was really curious about it because you've got this powerful story that really kind of was like the impetus to this adventure that you went on.
Yeah.
That opened you up in so many ways that I'm actually going to discover here on the podcast with you because, we're just getting to know each other. I don't know too much about your story. However, I can't wait to hear all about it because I could, probably write a book like this as well.
I'm sure.
So we're going to talk today about sexual liberation. We're going to talk about what happens after a breakup from a relationship and adventuring sexually in your life and what that looks like and how it can be talked about many times with some level of, maybe regret or shame or, something that is not celebratory.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to talk a bit about that. And we're also going to hear more about your story and what brought you from long-term relationship in your, younger adult years into, this experience of, I'd say, sexual freedom and liberation and exploration, and now into a committed relationship again.
Yeah.
So tell us, I want our community to really get the fullness of who you are and where this journey started for you.
Well, I was in an 11-year relationship. Is that a good starting point?
Yeah.
With a man who was 13 years older than me. We met when I was 26 and he was 39, which is the age I am now, for another day.
Yeah, you're about to have a big birthday.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Ooh, yeah, baby.
And as I was telling you yesterday, we fell very deeply in love, and part of our dynamic, it's very clear to me now, is that he was a caretaker and I was like pretty broken. I was pretty broken. And I was holding it together because I was working and because I had to like be in the world. But in the comfort of the love he showed me and the love his family showed me, I was like, felt very comfortable and loved for the first time in my life. And that gave me the freedom to really fall apart and hit my bottom. So
I'm curious, what was your family of origin relation to sex, intimacy? And now intimacy can be holding hands.
Yeah.
It can be having deep conversations with someone. It can be sex. I mean, intimacy is, so many things. So let's just take it back to like family of origin, childhood. What was your experience of your body, sex, sexuality? Was it accepted? Did you get some education from your parents?
Right.
What was that like?
My dad was very affectionate in a wonderful way. My mom was not terribly affectionate. My parents are both the children of immigrants, Eastern European immigrants. And that wasn't like an affectionate lot, I don't think. That's not what they did
Totally.
then. My dad is 90 now.
Okay.
So my dad was born in 1929.
Okay, so my dad was born in 1928.
Wow.
Yes.
We have older dads.
Yeah.
How old is your mom?
She's 83.
Oh, okay. So your mom is older too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my mom is 75.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're 15 years apart.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And so when I fell in love with a man 13 years older, it was kind of like, of course I did. And he... like
following suit.
Right. He like physically resembled my dad in ways that made and still make me uncomfortable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I knew my parents were fucking, for sure. Like, I know that my parents had a sexual life. I know that my dad is a sexual person. And it's hard, like a little difficult to say that because I don't want to give the impression that there was anything inappropriate with me. There never was.
Yeah.
There was just like an active sexual energy in the house. There was not a lot of hand holding between them or kissing between them.
Interesting.
But I did definitely observe them kissing in sexual ways. My dad would like smack my mom on the ass. And in fact, now my dad is like fully in the throes of dementia, but just will like reference all the time how he likes his cane because when my mom passes by, he likes to smack her on the ass with it and stuff like that. Yeah, my dad is a sexual dude, for sure. He's a sexual man. And I appreciate that about him.
That's awesome because my parents, no. I never saw my parents hardly even peck on the lips.
Do you think they were having sex?
I hope they were.
Yeah.
But their bedroom was on the third floor. So it was removed from our bedrooms.
Right.
So they could really kind of close themselves off. And yeah, I have no idea. I really don't. Yeah.
It also doesn't gross me out to think about my parents having sex. Like, it's not something I go out of my way to do. Like, I don't,
Sure.
But, like, when people refer to their parents having sex and everyone likes to be like, ew, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's cool. I'm glad my parents were having sex.
Yeah.
I don't think they have in a very long time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the fact that my dad is 90 and now has dementia, but even before that, I don't think they were. I think my mom shut herself off.
Totally.
At some point.
Okay. Yeah. So did you get any, like, education? Was there conversations about sex in your home? Or
There were not, but I was a weirdly sexual little kid.
Okay.
Like, I masturbated early and often. My parents tell this story about when I was 3 or 4 and there was a fireplace. We lived on the 10th floor of a building in the Bronx and we had a fireplace and I used to like strip my clothes off and lay naked in front of the fire and like touch my body sensually. Not masturbating, but like touching my body, like rubbing myself when I was like 3 or 4. And my parents, I think, were like, what do we do with this? You know?
They're like, they were like, I hope she doesn't do this in school.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what they did with it, but to their credit, I mean, my parents did not get a lot of stuff right with me, but one thing that I think they did get right is I don't remember any shame associated with that behavior.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. That's incredible. Okay. So fast forward, you're in this relationship with an older man. You're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you really fall apart.
Yeah.
You allow yourself to just go deep into the depths.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Then I got fed up with myself, and my best friend was pretty instrumental. She is not a person who's really struggled with depression at the level that I was at. And she would say stuff like, why don't, in a loving way, like, why don't you do something? And I would be like, you don't understand how this feels. Mm-hmm. From where I am, doing anything is impossible, until one day I was like, okay, maybe I can do something. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I did was acupuncture. That's like, I was like, I'm going to try acupuncture. You know, several people had recommended it. And I had this incredibly powerful acupuncture experience where she was like putting needles in my body, and she put a needle between my two big toes, and this ball of heat rushed up my body and burst from the top of my head. And I was a skeptic. I went in as a skeptic. I wasn't like exactly, I don't think I created it. I think it was a real movement of energy. I think it did what acupuncture is supposed to do. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I wept. I was feeling completely neutral. I had no emotion welling up, but it was like needle, heat, boom, crying.
Wow.
And she just like put her hand on my shoulder, and then I calmed down, and she finished applying the needles and left. And I experienced like a full psychedelic 40 minutes laying on that table in the dark.
Wow.
And then after that, something opened. And from there, I went for everything I could find. And I eventually got a spiritual mentor and built a little spiritual community where we would like share ritual, and I would have them over to my house, and we would read various literature from all different kinds of books and talk about it in like sort of a Quaker style of like when you're moved to share.
Yeah.
There was a lot of
Love the Quakers.
Yeah, I don't know much about
me neither,
them.
but I know they're cool.
Yeah, they're probably
I know they're cool and inclusive.
Yeah. And like, thanks for the sharing when the spirit moves you thing. We use that a lot.
That. Yeah.
And then I like got healthy. Like it was a really I was lucky enough to be able to devote a lot of time to myself.
Yeah.
For a while, I had a 2.5 hour spiritual practice every single day.
Yeah.
Which is a luxury that I had because I had a partner who was the breadwinner at the time, and I was earning, but not much. And I could just be in my house and sit on my floor and pray and meditate and read and write my own prayers and like change my brain.
Amazing. Well, and so tell us about your love life in that relationship.
Okay. We were very affectionate.
Okay.
We had a lot of physical contact, a lot of touching each other, a lot of like really beautiful mutual understanding and mutual holding of each other and seeing each other through struggles. And we had a really terrible sex life. We had like a very painful, disconnected. I'm like a very, high sex drive individual. It's really important to me. I'm curious. I'm like want to fuck. And he is an extraordinarily low libido individual and would be happy with like,
Once a month?
Like exactly like a run of the mill.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
What I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he would be like.
Yeah.
If I didn't initiate, we would almost have never had sex.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did it occur to you that like, okay, this is not working for me? From the 4-year-old that would like, essentially touch her body, and like, to the 30-something-year-old that was like, wait, I am not fulfilled sexually.
Right. Like the short answer is it occurred to me like once I gained a tremendous amount of weight when I was in the depths of my thing, and then I lost a tremendous amount of weight. So I want to say like when I got my body back and started to feel sexy and started to be noticed on the street again, that's when. But I think the truth is we talked very early on about marriage, and I was like, I don't want that. I'm not that kind of girl. I'm non-traditional. And I think all of that was because I knew then. I think a lot of that was because I knew then that this wouldn't be a sustainable thing ultimately, because we were incompatible from the get-go, from day one. From day one. It's not like we had this incredible like period of fucking and sexual connection. No. Yeah. We didn't ever have that.
Yeah.
He was completely terrified by me.
Wow. I bet he was.
By his own testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so tell us about the journey of leaving that relationship.
Oh, Lord. I mean, I was leaving the only home I'd ever really known. And I loved him as deeply as I ever had when I walked out the door.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I wanted desperately for him to come after me.
Yeah.
And
to like prove he really cared and
to prove his love.
Yeah.
To not let me leave. And he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was as insane as a spiritually devoted person can be, or as I, like I was so incredibly spiritually grounded and like listening so deeply to my intuition and my inner voice. And I was trusting that more than, like, I had more faith ever than I could ever even imagine. It was so beautiful. And that faith was taking me away, and everything that was like the soft whispery voice. And then like all the shouting and the pots and pans banging and everything else in my body was telling me to stay.
Wow.
It was.
It's the whispers of the soul, girl. The whispers of the soul. I talk about this a lot in my life, because the whispers of the soul is many times the truth. It's the energy that's guiding us, but it's very subtle.
Yes. I remember like in my prayers being like, speak up. Like, I need you now. Stop whispering, because I cannot hear you over the clamor. And it was the first time in my life I was not practiced at this.
Yeah.
I listened to all the outside stuff for my whole life, what everyone else thought was right. And I would choose people I trusted and listen to them, but I didn't know how to listen to that voice, or where that voice, or what that voice was, or whether intuition was actually fear in disguise. I didn't know. And then I learned, and then I dove in. And I was like, this is what I'm going to listen to. I feel it in my body. I feel that truth. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you left the relationship. And how long was it after that you came to San Miguel de Allende? 3
days. I mean, he and I worked on, we like did a year and a half. We had like 9, good years. I'll say we had 9 good years, which isn't to say that they weren't. We had the struggles that people have.
Of course. Yeah.
And he, he held a lot of freight. He was dealing with a very sick person in me.
Yeah.
I was not okay. And he saw me through a lot of that with as much love and tenderness as he could muster, I think.
Wow.
To his credit.
Yeah.
To his credit. I don't know that I could have seen him through what I put him through.
Wow.
I don't know that I could have stayed through that. I would have handled it differently than he did. He was a little bit permissive. And I think I would have been more staunch in my support to but I had to hit the bottom. Whatever. I'm grateful for how it panned out.
Sure.
And what am I answering? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're talking about,
right.
3 days.
Right. Well, so I had plans longer than that. We talked about me moving out of our home and living close by so we can continue therapy. We talked about, we were in Brooklyn, so I was thinking about upstate New York. I was thinking about Baltimore, where I had a dear friend. And then I was like, yeah, actually, I want a big life. I don't want to tether myself to this small life. And you're not fighting for me. You're not changing. Like a big linchpin was our sex life. So now I look back and I can say, okay, I was in a very beautiful, loving relationship that worked when I was sick and suffering. And he got to be in his role and I got to be in mine. And in fact, we went through the whole 1.5 year long grapple, then break up, then pack up the house process. And then I had surgery right before I came down here. And we were our best that we had been in years when he was seeing me through the recovery from surgery, because I was weak and could barely stand up. And he got to be the good, strong caretaker. And I couldn't even stand on my own 2 feet without him. And we were at our best with each other when I was at my worst.
Yeah.
And it was...
Okay, yeah. So that's important. You were at your best with each other when you were at your worst.
Right.
And you just needed him to be the strong, powerful.
He needed him.
Or he needed.
I needed him to stop treating me like a patient.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't that anymore.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do that. He wouldn't do that. And then the linchpin that I mentioned earlier is that when I did sort of wake up from all of this, I was like, I love you and I don't want to leave you, but I cannot wake up in another 10 years and have this be my sexual reality. Yeah. So let's start reading the books. Let's start going to therapy. Let's open our relationship.
Yeah.
And he couldn't abide by it. He just couldn't live with that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't live without it.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is because I've had this a lot where I'm like, wow, you didn't even come after me.
Right.
you know, and then I make it about me not being special enough.
Right.
Me not being important enough. Me not being sexy enough or lovable enough.
And it could be exactly the opposite.
Totally.
Yeah. That you are too much of the things for the men you're attracting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. And I just love, like, when did this clarity come through? At what point were you like, whoa, I really see this dynamic?
Long after I left. I was here and I made a friend who came down too staunchly on the other side. Like, the narrative I still had was he was the good, better one, I was the bad, sick one, and there is truth to that. But I was telling it as if he was only good and I was only bad and fucked up. I don't know. She was like, I don't like the character of you in the story of you guys. Like, I don't, the you that you're describing is not the person I know. What is this?
Yeah.
And she helped me see it, but she really had to chisel away.
Wow.
She's like, it's like you have Stockholm syndrome. And that's crazy because in the end, he is a good man.
Yeah.
He is a good guy. He's not just like a user and a manipulator. He's not those things. But he had his role that he wanted to play.
Yeah.
He's the beloved youngest of four. He's the favorite uncle, the favorite brother. He didn't know how to be an equal.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he probably still doesn't because he didn't really want to grow. He didn't really want to change to make our relationship have equilibrium. He wants to stay there. Fine, that's not criminal.
Yeah.
That's not criminal. I just am not going to hang there.
Totally. And
I want to transcend.
Absolutely. A woman. Yes, I'm all about that. That's why we're on planet Earth. You know, it's like we're on planet Earth to evolve and transform and move a lot of that stuff.
That's exciting to me, and I want to be excited by myself and by my life. And
of course,
he doesn't want to be excited. I don't, you know, like it just. But again, it took me probably a year and a half. Like, the way I'm talking about it now is nothing like what I would have talked about it at the time or a good year after.
And how many years has it been?
It's now been about 2.5 years. Yeah.
Okay. So 2.5 years. So you come to San Miguel.
Yes.
And
he drove me to the airport.
Okay.
I packed up all my shit. A mover came and moved me into storage. I fucked the mover that day. He doesn't know this. I guess he might now. And then...
If he follows you on social, yeah.
No,
maybe.
we're all disconnected there, but I'm still connected to some of his people. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Whatever. It's a long time. And I mean, I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to say who gives a shit.
Of course.
But I feel like, if anything, it'll validate his lackluster attitude.
He'll be like, and whatever.
Right? You know, so you're welcome for that information.
Yeah.
And so that was a Thursday. We went to a family wedding that weekend, which was my last time with his family and him. And that Tuesday, we slept in our bed together the last night on that Monday. And on that Tuesday, he drove me to the airport. And I came here a few days later. I stopped in Florida to see my parents. And then I came here where I knew no one and didn't speak the language. And,
oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So I have that's inspiring because I speak very little Spanish and you speak very well. So
oh, it can happen.
Oh, it's happening. Yeah. Totally. And you're my inspiration.
It's so wonderful. I can't get over how much my life has amplified since learning to speak another language.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's great. It's the connection to. I mean, you have now the ability to communicate and connect with. I don't know, like. How many Spanish speakers are there in the world?
Right.
You know, it's got to be. I'm going to just venture to say like. I don't know, 500 million or more.
Right. I don't know either, but that sounds good.
Yeah. So like that's power. And yeah, so
it's more connection.
Yeah, exactly. And so you arrive on the scene in San Miguel, you don't know anybody. And you told me yesterday when you arrived here.
I was full of grief and horny as hell. I was real horny. I was like so fucking ready. I was like, just wanted to fuck like an animal let free from a cage. And at the time I was like, this is the grief, fireworks. And in retrospect, it was in part the grief because being alone was difficult, but it was also, I was really fucking horny. I had a lot of ground to cover. I wanted to have sex with a lot of people and a lot of different kinds of sex. And like, I wanted to taste all the fucking flavors. I just wanted to do it. And I did.
Wow. So you wrote a book about this adventure.
Yeah. It's exactly 1 year from the day I arrived here until 1 year later. And I was here for almost 2 years. But after a year, I was like, I can't live like this. I can't live like, not the fucking, but like I couldn't live in the, like, my story, it's sort of like the social media brain, where like you're in an experience and you're taking a picture and you're thinking about what social media is going to do with it, or how you're going to put it through that channel.
Sure.
And that's what the book was like. Like, I wasn't in the moment. I was thinking about the book. I was thinking about how I would write it. I was like, I have to pee, and I would go in the bathroom and like record moments on my phone, like take little notes, and it started to feel inauthentic. And I was like, okay, this is a 1 year. This is a 1 year memoir. This is October 8th to October 8th. And so each chapter is one lover in that year.
So I'm curious, like, would you share with us a little bit about, maybe a few of your lovers and some of the things that you actually experienced as a result of, leaving your relationship, coming here and opening up to this whole new world of like love, connection, sex, sexuality?
Well, one of the things I experienced that really like validated some of my choices around leaving initially was passion returned. In my sex with my ex, he was not a passionate guy. His face didn't do stuff. I didn't really ever feel him ever like super ignited, like I gotta fucking put it in her. Like I never felt that with him. And that was a decade of my life.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's intense. I mean, one of my favorite things is being with men who are just so
passionate,
turned on.
Right.
And they're like, you baby, now, like this is happening, that there's something so yummy and delicious about that. So,
and the lack of it is a real anorexia. It's a real punishment.
Yeah, and that's like self-abuse, I'd say.
And it's what I felt like I deserved at the time.
Yeah. Well, and so what's been coming up a lot lately is that nobody asks you, are you sexually satisfied? People ask, are you having sex?
Yeah. Are you happy?
Yeah. Are you happy? But
is he good to you?
Yeah, there's a very little conversation about, sexual satisfaction.
Yeah, that's really true. That's really true.
Which is key. I mean, sure, you can be having sex, but if it's not satisfying, if it's not fulfilling, if it's not giving you energy to create and live your life, and feel fulfilled in that, I would say, unless you're choosing celibacy for whatever reason, that there's a huge gap in your life experience. I remember when someone very close to me had moved from out of, off the mainland to the mainland and Hawaii. Oh. And I asked, are you and your husband having sex? And like, is it good sex? And then I said, well, I just felt called to share some of the experiences I had with some of my lovers. And I have been really, really blessed to have some incredible lovers. And also what, someone told me recently is like, okay, do you get that like you are a part of that equation?
Right.
Because like how often do we put it on the other person? Right? It's them. Yeah. And like, no, actually it's me.
Well, I think it's connection and chemistry.
Well, it is, but there's something I'm bringing to the table
for sure
too, right? Yeah. And that makes it so juicy and awesome and passionate and exciting.
Yeah, for sure. No question.
Yeah, so it's just acknowledging that. And so this person was like, wow, I never even knew that that type of connection could be there, or like that that yumminess, that juiciness.
What age was she?
This was, I think she was like late 20s at the time, early 30s, maybe 3 or 4 years into a marriage.
Okay.
And so it was a real wake-up call for her.
What happened after you had this conversation with her?
Well, a whole lot of things happened, actually. Whoops. And they ended up getting divorced a couple of years later. Yeah. And then she went on to have her whole own sexual liberation.
Okay, good.
Yeah, which has been amazing. And now she's actually teaching me about stuff that, that I've never heard of, or...
Like what?
She just talked to me the other day about like nipple engorging tools and
Okay.
like they
clamps and stuff?
I don't know. They're these. I don't know what they are. I haven't really looked into it. I'm sure some of you know what we're talking about here.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Okay, so I don't
know about
either.
like pussy pumps.
Well, yeah, it's like it's like she said for your clitoris, for your nipples.
Okay.
Men have them for their penis.
Sure.
And yeah, like there's this whole world of like
Engorgement.
Engorgement.
Neat.
Yeah, it's really, really different, really interesting. So I was like, wow, thanks for letting me know that. I had no idea. I'm like, let me know how those tools work.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do an episode on it.
Yeah.
So you come here and you're like totally, I mean, fresh out of this relationship, very raw.
Yeah.
Very
as raw as can be.
Yeah. And also really horny.
Yeah. As horny as can be.
And so just give us some goods on like, what was that like for you? What was, the first sweet passion that you connected in with here? What were some of the gifts?
Well, one of the gifts was feeling very sexy in Mexico. Part of that is the climate and the energy of this town. Part of it is that I think I'm more broadly attractive to brown people because of how I look. And, like being thicker on all my hair and being American in a Mexican town and big ass and big tits and all that stuff. And I was also like so fucking lit. Like my energy was number one. Like I just had sex floating around me and I know I did.
Wow.
No one has to tell me that I did because I know how I felt. It was overwhelming to me at times how I felt so sexually awake because there's a lot to me and there's a lot of ways that I want to be gratified and my energy was like 86% sexual on like the median.
Yeah.
That's just where I was at that time.
Yeah.
And so it was not difficult. It's not difficult to attract people into the bedroom when you're vibing that way.
Sure.
All I had to do was show up in a public place and make eyes. And they were after me. And that was fucking cool. Like back before I met my ex, I was 26 when I met him. And I was kind of still self-loathing. I hadn't fully come into like my beauty or appreciation of my own beauty.
Sure.
Or any of that. I was
a kid still.
Yeah. And I was just like letting people not treat me very well. And then when I met him and he started to treat me really well, I was like, oh, I'm lovable. So I just hadn't done it as like a spiritually awake and woke woman fully in my stuff.
Yeah, I would say like as a grown-ass woman. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it was fun to like, one of my first best ones was one date only, which I was disappointed about. But this person's reputation didn't precede him, but it did follow him. And he's just sort of like, would date people for 2 months and entice them to fall in love with him and then disappear from their lives. Like, I learned a lot of this later.
Okay.
But we had a day, and we went out of town for the first time. He picked me up, and he's, like, super dreamy, deep brown eyes and, like, curly hair. And very intense. Like, there was no small talk, which is, there's no faster way to turn me off is than to do small talk, and there was none with him. And we just, like, had a day and ate and drank mezcal and went back to his place and drank some wine and danced and kissed and then made love. And it was just like, yeah, this is what I'm out here for. Like, he was passionate and beautiful, and I came and he came, and then we did it again. And he was like very into introducing women to their own ejaculate. He's like loved squirting. And I hadn't really done that before. And he did it to me for the first time. And that was exciting. And then he did it to me again. And it was just like, he's one of these people who can like chameleon his way into like a nice, exciting connection with most people, I think. And it worked on me. It worked on me like a charm.
Wow.
Actually,
I think it would work on most people, probably.
Yeah, for sure. But we did have a real connection. Like, it was 2-way. We did have a second date.
Okay.
But nothing really happened. I was burning with fever on our second date. I was sick. I got sicker than I've ever been on our second date. And then, he dropped me at home, and I stayed in bed trembling for the next 22 hours. That was brutal. Crap. Yeah, that was a real turning point. After that trembling disease, whatever virus I picked up Like at the end of that, I like crawled on my hands and knees into a cold shower with my clothes on and just sat under the cold water. It was like that. But that trembling was a turning point for me. And the sexual mania like went to a manageable level after that.
Okay.
It was actually kind of curative.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was a lesson.
Well, and so what inspired you to write these stories? And I still want to hear, I want to hear a couple of, if anything you're willing to share that won't give too much away.
Sure.
Like, what inspired you to write these stories out?
Well, I'm a writer, and I started a writing group here shortly after I arrived. That was one of my immediate goals. And I was working on a novel, which the group liked. It was a small group of women.
Okay.
And then I wrote one essay. I think the first one I wrote was My Very First Lover Here, which was just this sort of ridiculous older man who like seduced me with his fancy apartment, and I wanted to be seduced, and he wanted to seduce, and you know, it worked. Yeah, it was like lousy sex, and I was so not attracted to him, and I left that night. You know, I didn't stay over or anything, and I wrote that story because it was just so funny and like good and funny and juicy. And they were like, the writing group, I showed it to the writing group because I was thinking about selling it as an individual piece. I wanted to workshop it with them, and they were like, do more, we want this. And I was like, but serious? So then
who doesn't want a good sex story?
I felt so self-indulgent at the time.
Totally.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was either.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I went on this thing, like I went out with this guy, and I don't know, it just didn't feel important.
Yeah.
And then they told me the ways in which it was important, which helped shape me when I wrote the next one and the next one. And then they were like, this is a book. And I was like, oh my God, this is a book. And that's how it happened. And so I just kept, you know, I was lucky enough to have several experiences before I started recording them. But then when I started going into it, knowing that it was going to be a chapter is when it started to feel a little like out of my body and a little strange. And which is when I capped it at a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you choose which stories to tell? Was it obvious, or did you really have to kind of meditate on like,
Well, yeah, there are some chapters that combine lovers because they weren't that important.
Okay.
You know, like there was one man who we just had the most like impersonal, lazy sex. And like, it was like alcohol and cocaine.
Oh, shit.
And we fucked. And I was like, cool, this is what I want, you know? But it didn't, like, move me in any way. And then I think, because the book is also about grief.
Yeah.
The book is about fucking, and the book is about the grief of leaving someone you still loved.
Yeah, totally.
So I think ultimately it was the people who moved me, who, like, reflected things to me that moved me forward in my healing from the grief.
Yeah, well, and so we talked about at the beginning of this episode about, you know, stories, judgments about when you break up with someone and then you just go out and have a bunch of sex. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, so I've been listening to this it's really a novel in podcast. Like, I don't know if I think she wrote it, and rather than publish it, she's reading it chapter by chapter on her podcast. It's called Alone. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's called
Interesting.
Alone.
Okay.
And it's called Alone, a love story. And it's a story of a marriage ending due to his infidelity, and it's beautifully rendered. And she tells it. She tells her own story. It's her voice. It's her grief. It's her truth. It's wonderful. And I can't even listen sometimes because I just don't want to go. I just don't want to feel those feelings anymore. Like I felt them so deeply for 2 years and like worked through it. And then she brings me right back there, and I'm like, I'm going to listen to like, wait, don't tell me for a little while and have a laugh at politics. In it, she talks about a period of her own promiscuity, like many other pieces I've listened to and read. And she refers to it as with some degree of shame, like filling a hole, like there's remorse there. You know, there's no light on it that was like, and it was curative and it was helpful. And so like part of why I think my story is worth telling is because I was fully in my power during all of this, which doesn't mean I didn't get hurt. I got hurt. I was disappointed. I did a lot of reckoning.
Yeah. What were some of the other things that came up for you on this journey? I mean, I think about like jealousy, possessiveness, attachment.
Attachment was a big one for me because I was so in the mode of pair bonding. And when I really would experience a connection with someone, it was like, oh, we felt a connection. Obviously, you're going to want to move this forward. And often they didn't.
Yeah.
And I was attracting men who weren't going to do that with
they're
me.
not,
you know,
they're not relationship material.
Right.
They're fucking material.
Yeah, they're fucking material, maybe casual dating material. And I also didn't really want that, you know? Like, I knew I would want a relationship again. Mm-hmm. But I knew where my heart was.
Yeah.
There was no question. I didn't go into any of this with my eyes closed. Mm-hmm. And so, but even when a man would pull back who I wanted to lean in, mm-hmm. it was deeply painful. And every single thing was a reliving of the grief of of the true pain.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of realized at some point that it was like I was doing a homeopathic remedy. Like they were 1/1000th of him.
Yeah.
And I was giving myself doses of the same to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. We're really
alike.
Well, and I'm thinking like humans. We're simple and so complex.
Yeah.
And, you know, the things that we put ourselves through.
Yeah.
And our minds whip up these stories and fantasies and, you know, like, and I do it all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I watch myself do it, you know, and especially in love and relating and, especially if the sex is mind blowing, it's like I get super attached, you know, and so, yeah, it's just interesting how we do that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so did you experience, like, were you sharing this with friends at the time? Were you open about what you were actually going through? And did you receive some judgment and shame from people in your life?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I am very open. I say everything to everyone pretty much. Like, I mean, it's like socially inappropriate.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we're sitting here with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
So we're actually sitting here in the courtyard with a girlfriend of Lauren's and her boyfriend, her newer boyfriend. So kudos to you, brother. And, you know, so I want to talk a little bit about that. But yeah, so you're sharing this with people in your life.
Yeah.
And they are having their own stuff about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like for you?
So I think, you know, one of the real gifts of San Miguel, this place, for me, is the women. Women rushed into my life.
Yes, same.
Across all of the ages, younger, my age, and older, who saw me, heard me, where they bore witness, and they held me so tenderly through all of this. And I have women in my life who are like, I understand none of what you're doing. But like, tell me everything kind of thing. Totally. Because what is this that you're doing? You know, like, and I have people who have women, mostly, and men, who have such a powerful dislike for me that, and they like, they create drama around our interactions, people who I've met like 2 or 3 times, who have like almost violently strong reactions against me. I don't know a better way to say it, but they just dislike me so intensely. And I inspire something in people. Like, you don't have an intense reaction like that to somebody after meeting them 3 times if they're not triggering something in you. And because sex and sexual energy was such a big part of my persona in that first year, I have to think it's about their relationships to sex and relationships with men and whatever else.
Listen, you and I both know that when people have an issue with you,
right?
Yes.
We have responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is something in them that is getting triggered. And there's a reason for that. Yeah. You know, and you are just simply, you've got your own stuff. I've got my own stuff. And like what I know is one of my gifts now is that I trigger people.
Right.
Because of the life choices I make, the way that I live. Yeah. I'm nomadic right now. Yeah. People are either like super triggered by it.
Right.
Or they're like, super inspired and jealous.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, we just, we're reflecting for each other all the time. So yes, you had a variety of
responses for sure. But I had, the love was like weighted, you know, it was weighted far more in that direction, which, you know, with every negative interaction I have with somebody, I really make it a point to look at my side of the road. I really look at what have I done.
Yeah.
And can I fix this? Can I make amends? And what is my responsibility in this? To what degree am I responsible? And, you know, finding some, I do what I can to fix it. Finding none, I try to let it go. And that's there. And then like, I always look at when I'm doing this, I'm always like, okay, but I came here knowing nobody and have this incredibly powerful and ample group of people who I feel adored by.
Totally.
And
I've seen
like,
it, since I met you a few days ago, just seeing all so much love.
Yeah.
There's so much love for you here.
Yeah. And there's so much love from me here. I mean, I don't know how I got so lucky. I don't know how, I don't know how this, I don't know how I left Brooklyn for like a fucking pueblito in the middle of the Central Highlands of Mexico and fell into a love pit, fell into like the people who are going to show me myself.
Yes.
Like who are going to show me my own beauty.
Yes.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But it happened. And so, I'm getting these negative reactions from people, but I'm getting far more positive reactions and like very balanced positive reactions, not sycophants.
Yeah.
People who are like, are you sure you want to keep doing this? Are you taking care of yourself? This seems like a lot of energy. Where's your grief at? Like people who were giving me the real talk also, but loving me. And that was helpful too. They weren't just enabling self-destructive behavior.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can relate on a lot of levels with you. I have yet to be in a long-term romantic partnership,
which is wild to me. You told me that yesterday, and that's wild to me that you. I mean, do you feel like? Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you feel like that has been available to you, and you've said no to it?
I have certainly turned men down who were interested in being my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And those were just not the guys that my heart was not into them. And it was like either like I didn't like their scent, which is a huge thing. Like I have identified some very important things. If I don't like your scent or you don't like mine, like this shit ain't gonna work.
Right.
This shit ain't gonna work. Okay. Like I need to want to like nuzzle up in you, and be like, resting my face in, the unforeseen places.
Right.
Really comfortable, I need to be able to walk. We need to have a gait, a step that is in rhythm with each other.
For sure.
Because if we can't comfortably walk down the street hand in hand, this shit ain't gonna work. Okay. Also, can we sleep comfortably together? If we can't sleep comfortably together, like...
What makes you not sleep comfortably with someone?
Well, I actually had this guy who I really thought, this guy could be my boyfriend. And it was in the fall in New York. And I was like, wow, I'm really feeling this guy. And he was there and he was showing up and he was consistent. And, we went out a bunch. And I told you, I think that I have this thing with men where it's like a month.
Yeah.
And then like they either just disappear or they're like, no, this isn't, I'm not looking for a girlfriend right now or whatever. So I spent a couple of nights at his place and we never had intercourse. We never had.
In a month?
In a month.
That's cool.
Because I've been in a practice the last several years of slowing down that part of the process and really enjoying the energy of like foreplay and
the intrigue is beautiful.
Yeah. So I've really been practicing that. Also, I know that when I have sexual intercourse with someone, if it is mediocre to mind-blowing, I'm going to get attached.
Oh, okay. Mediocre to mind-blowing. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense, yeah.
I mean, mediocre is like, it's all right.
Yeah.
It could get
there's
better.
Room to get better, right?
That's right. Yeah. Or maybe it's just the first time or whatever. So anyways, I just noticed with him the few nights that we spent together, it was like he had like when we'd sleep side to, both on our sides spooning, he would have like his arm under my body in a really uncomfortable place and way. And it just didn't work. And it was
you
like...
You couldn't ask him to move his arm?
Well, I did, but then that didn't work.
Okay.
Right? Like it was like always this sort of like discomfort. So anyways... Yeah, there have been men who've been certainly interested, certainly stepped to.
Yeah.
And I've just been like, you're not my guy. Right. So this is something that I am actively getting really vocal about in all of my relations with men, because I'm still attracting amazing lovers who don't want to be my boyfriend. And, a part of me just wants to be like, oh, fuck that shit,
Yeah.
you know? What the hell? And another part of me is just like, well, what are you choosing?
Right.
Who are you being? What do you want?
Yeah, it's what your energy is calling for, most likely, and that's energy work for you.
Yeah. So there's, I'm in a deep process. I cried a lot today about love and the heart. It's very much alive for me right now in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even like so much so, like, just, yeah, it's I'm in a very tender place today about love. And because I choose to believe, well, let's see, how can I just be real about this and not full of shit?
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are partners in the world for me.
For sure.
Where we will meet and we will both be about it and we're both into each other and we're both choosing it and it's sexy and it's hot and, and there's a part of me that doesn't believe it, like doesn't believe that it actually exists for me. And like, how will I even get there? And then making it about me when a man is like, wow, you're so amazing. You're so great, blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, I'm not trying to be in a relationship right now. Mm-hmm. And I want to say what you said to your ex, like, or maybe what you said to yourself about your ex not coming after you. Yeah. And I want to be like, I'm just not special enough, and that's part of the core wounding. I'm not important. Right. I'm not special enough. I'm not lovable, really, is at the core of it. So, I've been on a journey for years to like, heal or just get with this part of myself and do the grieving. And I so deeply desire for my man to come into my life so we can like get on with it already. Right. And have some fun and travel and explore and build and create and, So as we're wrapping up here, what was your journey into this new relationship? Like out of that period and now into this new relationship?
There was a moment where it all really changed, and I left Mexico. I left here. I felt like I realized in the end that I came here to grieve and I might want to return here, but I wanted to close the book on Mexico for now. And I left to try Colombia. And I stopped to visit with my parents for a while because my dad is unwell, and kind of realized I couldn't leave just yet. And during that time, South Florida is like a shitty, like it's just full of idiots. It's not my place, not my world. But I had this
to all of our South Florida listeners, we love you.
Yes, there are gems. They're just not floating on the surface the way they are in other places.
Totally.
You gotta dig deep to find them.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I had this really, really wonderful sexual relationship with two people, with a woman and a man. I met him and then I met her, and the three of us became lovers. And he is a great guy and someone I would never be in danger of falling in love with.
Wow.
He's also an excellent feminist, and he took such good emotional care with me. He took such good care with making sure both of us, she and I, felt seen and equally desired, and he hit 100 of the marks of like a good lover, like a good guy, in terms of his availability, in terms of his like sexual gameness, and he was like a total freak and funny, great lover. And after feeling so taken care of in that, which that shit can get messy in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And nobody's feelings got hurt. It was always good with them. And that was largely him being responsible.
Love that.
And after that, I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not ever going to accept again anymore less than this level of connection sexually. And he and I had a sexual and intellectual connection, but it wasn't emotional. And so I was like, okay, on these two marks, I don't ever really want to go back. And I also had sort of like burned through some of that like wild need. So like, while I still have a very awake sexual appetite, it can chill on a low simmer until the lover is right. I don't need a dick in me right now. Like, that's where I was, I was kind of like, oh, this frees me up a little bit, like this frees up some emotional energy. And shortly after that, I met this one here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did you guys meet?
We met at a comedy show.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
I was actually on a Tinder date with someone else when I met him.
That's awesome. Is that going to be part of your stand-up act?
No way. Not for a couple years at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in this community.
Well, and so what was just kind of like your first inkling of like, this feels different? And was it that, or was it something else?
Yes, it was, immediately. By the time, when we had sex, we went on a little trip on our second date. We took an overnight trip to go meet a friend of mine, like an hour north of where I was living, to do mushrooms.
Nice.
And it was us, and it was our second date, right? Third date. And we hadn't had sex yet, right? And it was the four of us. It was us and my friend and his friend.
Okay.
So we hung out, we did mushrooms, we did like a beautiful ceremony. It was this glorious night, full moon, canal, like beautiful. And then we went back to our hotel where it was sort of implicit that we were going to have sex for the first time, which we did, and it was great. And then the next morning we had sex again, and then he touched my hair, and I cried a little bit.
Please, please. Okay.
She's
Men,
standing
women,
up and waving her arms for those of you who can't see her.
whoever you are, please, touch the hair.
Yeah.
The hair is so
sensual and connected to my hair is a big part of my identity too.
Yeah, same. So
it's like a big
when people
center.
touch my hair, I'm like melting.
But he did this like act of tenderness. And it wasn't the first time a man had touched my hair in the prior 2 years.
Sure.
But I was open to whatever that gesture conveyed in a new way. I also felt whatever was coming from him.
Yeah.
So I got choked up, and he was like, "Do you want to talk about what just happened?" I was like, "I don't." And he was like, "That's cool, but if at some point you do, I'm available for that." And I was like, "Oh, fuck you." Like,
you're like, "Oh, this is different." Okay.
And so that's when I like clicked in a little bit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, what a pleasure.
Likewise. I feel like we could do this for hours more.
Oh, we could totally do this for like the next 2 hours easily. And for our audience, you're just going to have to wait for the book to come out to get some of these juicy stories. And we'll let our people know when the book is coming out. And do you have a title?
It's called Just Say Me.
Okay.
And it's done. Okay. And I'm shopping for an agent in the incredibly competitive and small world of literary memoir.
Nice. Yeah. They will find you.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the best one. And, there's so many different ways for this to come to life.
Yeah.
And I very much look forward to witnessing your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being so open and so amazing and powerful on this journey.
You're welcome.
I just, I can feel into like our community, the Ignite Intimacy community. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to be able to relate to and benefit from what you've shared on your journey. And
I hope so. I really feel like any work of art is an offering. I think we were talking about this yesterday. And like, I really, at several points throughout the process, I've been like, what am I doing this? And it's really there's not a lot out there about people who have left someone they still love, who have walked away from good love for valid reasons.
Yeah. But like, it was like, there was no infidelity.
Right.
There was no like big thing that happened.
No.
It was just your time to go.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the hardest way to go.
Yeah.
Is when there's no like really
reason.
Good excuse.
Right.
And how can people find you online?
Well, I don't at this time have a website for myself or my book, but I'm Fair Trade Travelista on Instagram.
Okay, Fair Trade Travelista.
Yeah.
On Instagram. We'll have that link in the show notes.
Okay. That's probably the best way.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so you can check out Lauren and her journey at, say it again?
Fair Trade Travelista.
Fair Trade Travelista. We'll have that in the show notes. But let's see if we can spell it. FAIRTRADE Travelista. That's on Instagram. Ignite Intimacy, you're my people. Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out this really powerful story. This has been a real pleasure, and
thank you so much for asking me to do this. It's such a joy.
Awesome.
And bye, beautiful people. I know I don't know you, but I'm sure that I love you.
Yes. And stay tuned for the book,
Just Say Me.
Just Say Me. All right. Love y'all. We will see you on the next one. Ciao for now. Mwah. Hey, wowzers. Love and romance, intimacy, sexuality. We're all on our own journey. It's amazing to love and love hard and to let go and to surrender and to say yes to that which is calling us forward. And it certainly is not easy all the time. So I trust that you were able to connect with something powerful out of this episode. What a great pleasure to sit with Lauren and her crew in a beautiful courtyard here in Mexico and to jam on some of what I feel are the most timely and important topics in each of our personal lives: love, intimacy, sexuality, romance, connection, and the right fit, right? And you can apply that to anything in life. It doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship. So I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining in with us today. And we have a poem coming up from Noelle, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. So please share this with your people and hop over to iTunes, leave us a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay blessed and ciao for now. Mwah.
Ally. Finally, he wrapped his full lips around my erect nipples and took me in as I would have he. Only seconds before, he had taunted me with his hard wisdom, but licked me only with his steady breath. And I was there begging in tremor whispers for him to risk me, unlatched. Yet he, with his patient proximity, was so much more than daring. He was dangerous. And finally, when he closed the distance, my world selected that moment, and I was ready. I had already begun to foam up to the rims of what was next. I was already diving, detaching safeties, especially accumulated goodwill. But finally, I was with the one who knew to guide my own hand, to connect me to my own pleasure. Finally, the one willing to not take credit for that.
Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.